The Focke-Wulf 190, designed by Kurt Tank, was a shock to the Allies in 1941. It was fast, tough and heavily armed, and outclassed anything the Allies had at the time. Kurt Tank wanted a fighter that wasn't fragile, that had a rugged, reliable design that could take damage and remain operational. The 190 incorporated his wishes and became an excellent aircraft. Compared to the Bf-109, the pilots felt the 190 packed a bigger punch and performed better at low and medium altitudes. Over time it was developed into a number of variants, including a dedicated ground attacker, a bomber destroyer, and a high-altitude interceptor. It was capable of carrying an impressive arsenal of bombs, rockets and gun pods. When fitted with the UMO 213 engine, the 190 Dora variant became one of the most capable high-altitude fighters that saw service in the war. More than 20,000 Focke-Wulf 190s had been built by the war's end, and it is considered one of the best aircraft of the conflict. So the first variant of the 190 in Wathan is the 190A1, battle rating 3.3, Tier 2. This is the initial production version, first produced in June 41. It's powered by the BMW 801 C1 engine, developing 1539 horsepower, and it's armed with 4 MG17 machine guns and a pair of MG FFMs on the outside. The MGs are on the cowling here and in the wing roots there and there. Early models of the A1 suffered from overheating issues. The engine lifespan was usually a maximum of 40 hours. But compared to the pre-production A0, it had a longer spinner to improve aerodynamics, and it had teardrop cowling bulges, as you can see here. Next is the A5, which was introduced in mid-1942. This is battle rating 4.7 Tier 3. It's powered by the 801 D2 engine, developing 1677 horsepower. The A5 was designed to carry a larger payload than previous versions, and to adapt to this role, the engine was moved 15 centimeters further forward to allow more weight to be fitted aft of the aircraft. It had the same armament since the A2, which was a pair of wing root MGs and outboard MG151s, so 4 20mm cannons in total, with the outer MGs being MGFFs and these inner ones being MG151s. The A5/U2, which is placed at the same battle rating, was a long-range night attacker, which could be fitted with wing-mounted drop tanks and a centerline bomb rack. It made use of anti-reflective materials and it had exhaust flame dampeners. The outboard MG FFMs were removed to save weight. Next is the A8, Tier 4, battle rating 5.3. The A8 was introduced in February 1944. They had the same engine as the A5, but the engine incorporated improved protection, particularly around the cowling and around the engine itself. As of the 190A6, the armament had been improved to increase anti-bomber effectiveness. The outboard MG FFMs had been replaced by a pair of MG151s, and as of the A7, the cowling-mounted MG17s had been replaced with heavy-caliber MG131 machine guns. Due to the extra weight in the wings, the wing itself had to be designed to be lighter, because the overall weight of the aircraft had increased. The A8 had thicker armour around the engine, but the engine was essentially the same. But the engine could also use C3 boost, which raised the power to 1953 horsepower. The canopy had also been slightly redesigned. It bulged slightly at the outside to improve visibility. Next is the F8, battle rating 5.3. This was a ground attack version of the A8. The compressor injection had been modified to provide a temporary increase of power at low altitude. It had a new radio to improve communications with ground units, and it could mount additional wing racks for 50 kilogram and later 70 kilogram bombs. As you can see here, 4 times 50. Won't buy those now. Trying to save up money for the tanks. It could also mount a number of air-to-ground rockets. I don't believe these are modelled in game. No, they're not. But it was a test bed for various kinds of air-to-ground rockets and missiles. Next is the D9, Tier 4 6.0. Sorry, 5.7. D12 is 6.0. The D9 was the initial production variant of the Dora. It was fitted with a Junkers UMO 213E, which had developed 1726 horsepower, but it could also use methanol water 50 injection to increase the power to 2071 horsepower. This new engine was inline, unlike previous 190s which had a radial engine. The Dora series was designed to have superior high altitude performance to engage Allied bombers, but by late 1944 these missions were rare and pilots were usually assigned to fighter versus fighter combat and ground attack. To maintain weight balance, the fuselage was lengthened in front of and behind the cockpit, and the overall length of the fuselage had been increased by 5 feet over the A model. Compared to the A series, the Dora rolled slightly slower, but also had a slightly faster top speed, and it also climbed and dove faster. However, the D9's engine still suffered from performance drops above 6,600 meters, which was addressed in later models, particularly the D11. Next is the D12 Battle Rating 6.0. This is based on the D11, except it has a nose-mounted Mk108 30mm autocannon. The D11, which this aircraft is very similar to, introduced the UMO 213F engine. This had the same power output as the D9's engine, but it used a 3-speed, 2-stage supercharger, which allowed the aircraft to maintain performance at all altitudes. It had a new wide-bladed propeller to hold more traction in the thinner air up at high altitudes, and it had an enlarged supercharger intake on the right side, as you can see here. The D13 is next, the premium here, also Battle Rating 6.0. The nose cannon from the D12 was replaced with a MG151 20mm. The D13 also used a steering assist system, which helped with the movement of control surfaces. The D13 also featured hydraulically assisted ailerons, which allowed them to be used at higher speeds. Finally is a development of the Focke-Wulf 190, the TA-152H1, Battle Rating 6.3. The Dora series was a stopgap until the TA-151 was ready. This particular variant, the H, is a Höhenjäger, or high-altitude fighter. The TA-152, by the way, also had hydraulic ailerons, like the Dora. It used the same UMO 213E engine as the D12, D13 and D11. Well, actually it was slightly different. It had a radiator, whereas the Doras didn't. The new engine and the extended wingspan were designed to increase high-altitude performance, and the fuselage was extended once again to maintain balance with this new wider wing. The H1 had extra wing tanks for increased range, and it also had 2 kinds of boost. It had GM1 for high altitudes and MW50 for low altitudes. The 152H, as a matter of fact, was one of the fastest piston-engine fighters of the war and is capable of 755 km an hour in level flight while using boost. An interesting story with the 152. Kurt Tank, the designer, was flying an unarmed TA-152 to a meeting at the Focke-Wulf factory in very late 44. He was being chased by a pair of P-51s. The ground control staff picked up these pair of Mustangs chasing him, and he was able to outrun them by opening the throttle to full power and using the boost. So, interesting story. The designer of the aircraft was actually using it himself, and he escaped his pursuers. So that's the Focke-Wulf 190 in War Thunder, including its development. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Reach for the Sky. See you soon.